Weencast, a Ween podcast with Shane and Rory.
Hey, what's up? This is Shane.
And this is Rory.
And this is Weencast. Welcome.
Welcome back to Weencast, everybody.
Yeah. So we're going to cut the intro short because this is going to be the part 2 of our amazing interview and phone call with Chris Tomato 11 from Sound of Urchin. And
yes, we still cover quite a lot more ground.
Absolutely.
So buckle into your seatbelt and enjoy the ride.
If you haven't heard part 1, check out part 1 and come back to this one. But this is the conclusion to our amazing conversation with Tomato, and we hope you enjoy.
Yes, enjoy.
Well, let's talk about you as a fan yourself, if we could, for a minute or two.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned Thin Lizzy. What are your top influences? Like, what are your, if you could say, okay, I'm raised on this and this.
Right. Well, I mean, Zeppelin, Aerosmith, definitely early years of my life. Like, I love early Aerosmith and I love Zeppelin, and John Bonham's my favorite drummer, and that's, Stuart Copeland's my other favorite drummer, and Dave Lombardo from Slayer, another favorite drummer. I love these guys, and in terms of like influences, I love 70s like one-hit wonders. I just listened to Casey Kasem on Sirius doing the countdown from 1979, this week in 1979. And I love that shit. I mean, there's no shortage of 70s music that is so fucking good. And that's how I got into Thin Lizzy, because the boys are back in town and there's actually 20 other freaking albums, my influences, obviously, I'm sure you guys too, but they range just depending on what I was into at the time. I'm way into The Cure and Bauhaus, and I'm way into metal. I love Slayer and Pantera and Metallica and Cannibal Corpse, and I love death metal. And I love I went into a real huge Grateful Dead phase. I'm a Deadhead in a lot of ways too. I love the Dead studio albums. Actually, I'm a big fan of the studio albums.
Absolutely.
I know they get a bad rap for some reason about those, but I love Terrapin Station. I love all the studio albums.
I remember the album Dead versus Jerry on Quaaludes, taking 50 minutes to say one line.
Yeah,
so it's all good.
I
remember. I think you might have posted that on the Urchin website or something way back when. I'm a big fan of the Grateful Dead studio albums. And I was like, oh, me too. I remember being oh yeah, Tomato's down with the Grateful Dead studio albums. Yeah, cool, because I'm a big fan of them as well.
Yeah, I love American Beauty, Working Man's. I'm sorry, what did you say?
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say I love your description of the Casey Kasem, and I do you see that leads into how eclectic your approach to music is, because it seems like you're drawing from so many different places.
Yeah, completely. I think it's a new version of that. I mean, You Are the Best. The You Are the Best album is that. It's the Casey Kasem countdown. You have the Millipedes, it's a newer version of that. It's not 70s, but you have a sentimental song The Clearing Hole, and then you have Zen Magic Marker, and then you have Fireflies on the 4th of July, and then you have the Millipede, and so it's all, to me, that's what music is, and that's a huge influence. The 70s, growing up in the 70s, and listening to AM radio and hearing fucking Don't Do Me Like That, and then hearing Ramblin' Man by the Allman Brothers, and then hearing Ain't No Mountain High Enough or something, or fucking Paul McCartney and Wings or something, and I love that shit, man. And But that's definitely a huge influence. But again, in a newer way, because when I was in high school and junior high, then I was getting into hip hop, so I was way into like Eric B and Rakim and all the early hip hop was coming in. I'm like, this is freaking incredible. And then De La Soul and Tribe and everything else. And so, I love new wave too, like OMD. I'm a huge OMD fan. So I'm a Smiths fan. I love the fucking Smiths. I saw the Smiths on the Meat is Murder tour when I was a kid, and I'm a huge Public Image Limited fan. Johnny Rotten, and I'm a huge reggae fan. I seek out rare dub and stuff from the 70s and Lee Scratch Perry and early ska. I love fucking reggae and dub too. So throw it all in the mix,
If you had to narrow down to a top 4, like a Mount Rushmore, if you will, who would be on your Mount Rushmore?
Oh shit! The Boss, Bruce Springsteen, probably is up there.
Awesome.
I'm a huge fan of The Boss. Me and Mickey Andriowicz went to see him do The River at Madison Square Garden, and me and Bill saw him play once, and we were crying during Jungle Land. Me and Bill crying.
I love how he'll do 10 straight shows at the Garden or whatever. He'll just keep playing more and more shows.
Unfucking real. I mean, I say Bob Marley's up there in the Mount Rushmore, The Boss. We talk about guys, single dudes, the Kings, they're like the Kings, yeah. Shit, top 4, that's really tough.
Because you don't have to make it just a one individual person. It's just the metaphor of top 4 bands. But those are 2 great, amazing.
Phil Lynott,
awesome.
Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy, definitely. These are guys that just they cut right to the soul, man. They just cut right to it, and that's like Bob Marley too. Every time you listen to Bob Marley, it's just I know it's like, oh yeah, Bob Marley, but you hear him everywhere,
People take him for granted, I think.
They take him for granted, but the insight of this guy, the things he's saying, what is some of that shit that he's saying? Only a foolish dog barks at the flying bird, or something like that. He's got everything is these huge, I don't know what they're called, but I don't know. They're so fucking deep and
like a brain fuck. It's just oh my god, how do I rip that out?
Yeah. And you always find new stuff when you listen to him. You're like, oh my god, and the sound is impeccable of his albums. That's another. The production of the Bob Marley albums, like Survival, is one of my favorite albums, and the production is so fucking. It's so tasty. It's like 77 or 78, and it's so fucking deep. But Zeppelin's definitely on it. I hate fucking people that try to take down Led Zeppelin. They're fucking amazing. You write a song, Kashmir. Write Kashmir. Write a song that comes even close to Kashmir. Gives you goosebumps the whole way through.
I just think, Zeppelin they are just all just fantastic musicians, and they play a wide variety. I mean, you have the blues rock, and you have loud anthems, and you have these quiet, songs. You got No Quarter. I mean, they're so. It absolutely is a band that has become so prevalent that people take it for granted.
I got another one.
Oh yeah, Stairway. Don't play
Stairway.
That music store. Don't play Stairway.
Right. Yeah. How about fucking like you said, Houses of Holy is one of the weirdest Zeppelin albums because it's so they got you don't go. They have
the 70s influence a little.
Yeah, hey baby, you got the love I need. Ba-dum. It's such a happy Zeppelin album. Then you got Zeppelin 3 that is just this fucking weird country album that's also really fucking vibey, and I mean they're another one where they're so much more diverse than you think that they are. They're so diverse.
I feel like Led Zeppelin is sort of like an influence on like all different types of rock that came after them. You know, it's not just straight like rock and roll. It's like punk rock or, you know, alternative or whatever you want to call it. It's like, there are so many musicians who would be like Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, and being the influence on individual musicians, you know, it's like you're a drummer, and it's like John Bonham, man. Like, look no further.
Yeah.
For inspiration.
Everybody.
You know, you're a guitarist, like, look no further than Jimmy Page, man. Like, and you like that.
Right, you were try to write a riff like fucking Heartbreaker. And they get right into that, and then John Paul Jones' fucking bass on that is gnarly and deep, and it's just like, holy shit, this groove is fucking. It's so intimidating. And yeah, it influenced like Ministry, it influenced Nirvana, and it influenced like obviously Soundgarden, and you know, it's Zeppelin, you know, it's fucking
grunge, all that stuff. Yeah,
there could be a knee-jerk reaction from the punk element to immediately sort of hate on the stuff that it has been like popular. But just because a band's super popular doesn't mean that they're not doing amazing things on their own terms.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about before. Exactly, the fact that, you know, and I had that attitude too. I was a punk rocker in high school. You know, Suicidal Tendencies. I loved Suicidal. You know, I love the Misfits. I love punk rock, but you know, Sex Pistols and the Clash is on Mount Rushmore. Fuck, God damn.
Nice.
Yeah, the Clash, the Clash, Thin Lizzy. I put Metallica up there, and Bob Marley and the Boss. I'd say those five, you know, they're the kings, you know. You know, there's another, but like, I had that punk attitude, and I understand it, and it's kind of fun. It's like, fuck your idols, screw your idols, kill your idols. That's awesome. You know, that's great. I'm a punk rocker, and you can't, you know, so is Mickey, and so is Aaron. Aaron's a total punk rocker. You can't, like, you know, an attitude. You can't, I mean, Elvis was a punk rocker, but, you know, to go as far as to not appreciate, you know, it gets kind of old, especially now because, you know, just not to like something that is popular. Like, I'm a Red Hot Chili Peppers fan, but you can't say that in some circles.
Yeah.
You know, I love fucking Blood Sugar Sex Magic. You can't say that. You can't say you love, Yabba Dabba Doo now. You know, you can't, like, you can say it.
The Chili Peppers are fantastic.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Well, it's like the recent Taylor Swift, man. We gotta get rid of the hate, man.
Yeah, well,
like,
that's why it's all Mike Patton's fault, man. Because Mike Patton is a hater, and I like Mike Patton. I like Faith No More, but he's such a hater, and he spawned a lot of haters, you know. But and you know why? This is funny. The only reason why Mike Patton is such a hater is because they used to compare him to Anthony Kiedis. They thought he was like the little brother of Anthony Kiedis back in the day. And he hated that because he's like, I'm fucking Mr. Bungle. You know?
Yeah, right. You know, there's all those stories that are just like, okay, well, whatever, you know, Faith No More is doing, we're doing the opposite of that. And I don't want to be associated with Faith No More while I'm doing Mr. Bungle and like all that sort of, you know, it's like, are all those stories true though? I mean, you know,
I don't know, but that's the same thing. Like Phil Anselmo did that with Pantera. Like Pantera was like, you know, Vulgar Display of Power is one of the fucking heaviest albums ever recorded. It's one of the meanest albums ever recorded. It is so fucking top notch, and it was, and Phil Anselmo looks at that as a sellout, and it's just like, you know, get over yourself, you know, like thank you for Mike Patton, like. You know, I was so glad when Mike Patton got back together with Faith No More, and they were fucking great. Like, Angel Dust is a great fucking album, and so is The Real Thing, or whatever that one is called, that, you know. I don't know. You know, get over yourselves, you know. Oh, Pixies, they're on Mount Rushmore, too.
I did not appreciate the Pixies when I was younger, but oh my God, they're awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. I probably listen to the Pixies almost every day of my life.
Otherworldly. Pavement too. I got to put Malcolm up there. I spoke about him before, but I love fucking Pavement.
So you're bringing up a lot of different guys in the music scene, and you know you've gotten to, you know, play with a lot of those guys over the years. You know, Tenacious D, you know, Dio, you've gotten to play music with and meet a lot of really like amazing, musicians and just celebrities in general. Is there any one particular person that you look back on your experience and say, I cannot believe I got to meet, them?
Yeah. I mean, I would say Dio was probably the biggest one that fits that bill for sure. Meeting Dio and hanging out backstage with Dio, he invited us the last night. This was a big tour, and we were the small act, and it was Deep Purple, Scorpions, and Dio, and they all had separate. They all had like 3 buses per band, and we hardly got to know them. We met them all, and Roger Glover from Deep Purple was really cool to us, but Dio, we met him backstage, and he goes, oh man, because we played before Dio and after Dio. That was our deal. We played like a 20-minute set before Dio and a 20-minute set after Dio.
Wow.
And it was a fun fucking crazy thing. We'd end our first set, and his fucking scary music would come on. We're like, oh my God, there's the scary music again. And then he'd play Rainbow in the Dark, and that was the cue that we were going to go and do our set. But, Dio, we met him backstage, and he was so nice to us. He goes, oh man, I hear you guys, I don't know if he heard us, but he said you guys rock. And he's like, when's your last night on the tour or whatever, and we said it's coming up in a few weeks. And he's like, after my set, or after your set or whatever, come backstage, come find my dressing room and come hang out with me. And we went to his dressing room, and he had beer for us. We drank beers. You don't think Dio drinks fucking like beers, but he does. And he had his little pants on a fan. It was like 150 degrees out. We were in like San Antonio, Texas. And his little pants were on a fan, and like drying off from the set. And we sat down at the couch. He gave us T-shirts, Dio shirts, and we just talked about fucking rock and roll. And he said to me,
wow.
He said to us, he said, the day that we talked about how singers, when they get older, can't sing their old songs and can't hit the notes, so they go for a lower octave. And he said, the day that I can't hit my notes is the day that I stop playing. Like, I'm not going to do that. And he said it to us. It wasn't a fucking interview or anything, And, man, there were moments like that. Obviously, Jack Black, even though we got to know him pretty well, and, I hung out with him one night, and I hung out with him a bunch of times, but one night, we just hung out and raged, and we were just singing every song known to man together, and just, a lot of Def Leppard. That's all he wanted to sing was Def Leppard. But, there's just moments like that.
Or were you guys playing instruments?
No, a cappella. We were just in a bar.
Nice.
Man, one time, being signed to RCA was so cool because we got to meet so many people. And one time my manager, my marketing guy at RCA he goes, you want to go to a Ranger game with me? And I'm like, yeah, cool, I'll go. I'm not a big sports fan, but I'll go see a game. So I went to the Ranger game. He goes, we might have to leave early because we might have to go have dinner with the Foo Fighters. And I was like, okay. So we left early, and we go to fucking the steakhouse, Smith & Wolenski's, and there's an upstairs room, and there are the Foo Fighters, and, the head of RCA, and, Dave Grohl's guitar tech, who is also Tenacious D's guitar tech, which was great. Because when I walked in, he knew me because we were on tour with the D.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, shit, that's fucking amazing. All right, they know I'm not just some fucking creep. And they put in an extra leaf on the table, one of they made the table longer. They separated Dave Grohl and Taylor, the drummer, put this extra leaf in between them, and sat me down with a fucking big-ass steak and a big glass of red wine. And I'm like, I am sitting here eating dinner with fucking Dave Grohl right now.
Nice.
In between Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins, what the fuck is going on? This is and I'm not like, I don't know. I'm talking about this shit, and it sounds like I'm bragging, but I'm coming as a fan, and me and Bill, meeting Flavor Flav and opening for them, and Fishbone. We opened for Fishbone and getting to play for
I'm a huge Fishbone guy. Huge Fishbone guy.
And Rocky George from Suicidal was on guitar, and getting to play for these guys and then hanging out with them and laughing with them and like sharing music together. And, this is all fan stuff. It's just, this is what it's all about. We opened up for Devo. Oh, no, we didn't open up for Devo. We went up for Butthole Surfers, and Devo played the next night. And I'm backstage, and fucking Devo's putting on their yellow suits, and I'm talking to them as they're putting on their fucking suits. And it's one of the first concerts I saw, and like, just to fucking, those times don't exist anymore. Really, it's not not like that anymore. Like, rock was so important, and I'm again just thankful, and Bill, we're thankful to be able to just fucking meet these people, and just hang out. I said it before, but I don't take Mickey for granted for 1 second. Like, even though I'm friends with him, like, I worship him, Oh, Guided by Voices, Robert Pollard. Put them on Mount Rushmore. Sorry.
Chisel another head up there.
Yeah, there's a lot. Anyway,
it's all good.
I don't know. Am I just fucking yapping over here?
No, man. I love it. That's awesome to hear those stories, dude. It's great to hear. You're a musician and you're doing it professionally, but it's also about being a fan, right? It's like you're a fan of music, and I think that undergirds everything. Is you always have to be a fan and love that. I do some writing, and you can't be a writer without reading and being a fan of other writers. Like, you can't do it in a vacuum. You're surrounded by the other musicians in the culture.
Right, yeah. I mean, you have to be a fan. You have to always stay a fan. That's why you do it anyway. When I was a kid, I used to draw like a lot, and I used to draw every night, and I used to make up bands and album covers and names of the guys in the bands and like, fake bands. And I had like discographies of bands that were made up. I'm talking like we're going on 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Bands that look like Kiss and whatever. And that's what you do when you get in a band. You pretend. You make up this fucking band. And you make up the album cover, and you make up, it's a rock and roll fantasy is what it is. I'm sure Ween would say that, or any band would say that. You get that opportunity. Like, you don't realize Black Sabbath wanted to be the Beatles,
Right.
Like, they thought they were the fucking Beatles, and they were fucking Black Sabbath.
Well, that's part of the fun of it. That's part of when we talk about the fun of music, that's part of that. Like, don't take it so seriously. You're part of it. Ultimately, you are part of this big show,
Right. Yeah, exactly. And don't take yourself so seriously, and just always be a fucking fan. I mean, I know Mickey's a huge fan. When we used to see Springsteen, like, we were in the audience, but like, we were just like fucking blown away in his presence, Yeah. It's like, humble, like there's fucking the boss.
Well, you mentioned, you saw the boss at the Garden, and you're synonymous with New York City at this point. As a NYC musician and artist. What can you tell us about when you first got to New York as compared to now?
Oh my God, it's so much different. I mean, when I came to New York in '93 is when I moved here, and like straight out of college, and me and my buddy, we had an apartment that was like $900 a month, and we lived in the East Village, like right near Tompkins, right near Astor Place, and it was so badass back then. I mean, it was so fucking cool, and it was so scary too. It was like, you just never knew who you were gonna meet, and everybody around was like, was just into music and. It was just like, it was the Lower East Side. It was the East Village. Like, everybody was in some way like fucking alternative isn't the right word, because that sounds stupid, but everyone was a punk rocker. Like,
yeah, like everyone was a weirdo in some,
or
some oddball character.
Real weird. Like, that's what's so funny, that these jam band people call themselves freaks. They never fucking met a freak, Like, come on, man. I mean, you're not a freak. It's okay. You don't have to be a freak. It's fine. You can be into whatever music you want. I love that the jam band people love music. That's amazing. But you're not a freak. I've seen some freaks in my time, man. And back then, they were real freaks. Like, just because you have purple hair doesn't mean you're a freak, And but back then it was like, these were people that couldn't exist in society. I mean, you can get a job, you can work at Starbucks with tattoos, like, a full sleeve of tattoos. Back then, like, you couldn't get a job. Life was weird back then. It was fucking crazy. Guy's yelling at his horse. The horse and carriage going to Central Park, like Christmas or something. No. Yeah. So, I mean, the city was just like a whole nother thing back then, I thought the phone died for a second. Yeah. So, and back to that, like, living in the East Village, there was all these clubs. There was CBGBs, there was Wetlands, there was, Brownies, there was the Continental, there was so many clubs to play. And I was in these bands, and we'd play at these clubs, and you'd poster up the lamp posts and let people know when you were playing. And one night, every club had like 6 bands a night, and people would go out and see the bands. It was a real scene. You'd know what was going on. And then one band would kind of make it, and one band would really make it. And, it was real thriving scene. I was in this band, and we played with Jeff Buckley once a month at this club. It was just us and Jeff Buckley. And then we'd go and hang out with him. And like, this guy was for real, Jeff Buckley. He had girls crying just in front of him in the East Village. Like, when he played, like, girls crying. Like, I never saw anything like it in my life. There'd be all these hot, downtown New York chicks, crying at the fucking guy. Like, for real. And he was just singing. He was just singing with a guitar. I never saw anything like it, but that was New York. It really was. Every night was an adventure. And now, and obviously, the story's been told before, but by many people. But now, the minute there's a cool little thing happening in a certain area, then that's when the real estate people and and the rich people, the elite, the elite New Yorkers go and they want to live there. And they want to take, they fucking jack up the rent and they take over the spot. Then one by one, and I've had it happen to a few neighborhoods I lived in, one by one, the clubs start closing. The rock clubs start closing in the neighborhood. One by one, the cool bartender that quits. One by one, the nice waiter or waitress doesn't want to work at that place anymore because the people that come in are mean. Because ultimately the elite people that come into these neighborhoods they're pretty mean. People don't realize that. Like, they're not nice. They're not nice. They come in and they're actually not nice. They're better than. And,
they already have a certain take on it, because it's like, well, I paid this kind of money to be here, right? So I deserve this, or I'm entitled to this, right?
Yeah, and they kick out the people that have lived there for 40 years, like the families, and they pay them off, but then they flip their house and sell it for $3 million, and so they kick out the people that the grandma lives downstairs, the daughter lives upstairs, the aunt lives in another floor, and they kick the people out. And then they come in and they have no appreciation for the waiter and the waitress and the bartender and the people that are really, the coffee shop guy. So those people start to move out one by one, and you look around and you just wake up one morning and you're like, where did all the culture go? Where did all the fun go? And where did all
where did so fast that it happens so fast it can't happen organically, and then it just sterilizes everything.
And now it happens faster than ever. That's the crazy thing. because now, like you saw it in Williamsburg, you know, if you know Williamsburg, Brooklyn, like,
Yeah.
I mean, we were playing North 6th. It was North 6th Street. There was a place called North 6th. Moist Boys played there. Urchin played there. Like it was a hangout for like SNL people. Like it was a real cool place. It was the only thing on North 6th Street. And there was nothing else in the area at all. It was a scary thing to do, a scary place to go to, at least because it was so desolate. And Seahag lived right near there, and like, you know, it wasn't like it is now, obviously, but back then, like, that's not that long ago. And they just went in there. Now you go there and it looks like freaking oh God, I don't even know what it looks like, because there's condos like everywhere. It's like, This is crazy. And culture's gone, you know?
Yeah, it just starts looking like everywhere else, basically.
Everywhere
it
else.
doesn't have like its own like identity anymore.
Right.
You know, Starbucks and Subway and whatever else. Right. You know, the corporations have enough money to open like a new establishment anymore. So it just looks like anywhere else in the country.
And they go around and they like, you know, like the Starbucks, like if they come to your neighborhood, that was thought out. They know what they're doing. They know that they're looking, and they're looking ahead, and they know how much money they're going to make, and they know who's moving in that neighborhood, and they know what that investment in that franchise is going to make for them. Once that's in there, you know the neighborhood is cooked. That's it, you know?
Yeah.
It's just done. Because they're not just going to put it up in some neighborhood where they can't have their scene going on there. Oh, it's horrible. But, you know, whatever. It doesn't – it's life, and, you know, it's not the first time.
Do you feel like New York City is still a good place for music?
No, it's not. New Hope is. New Hope is. New York is so not a good place for music that I can't tell you a good rock club that I could go – you know, now it's just like any place. Like when you're going to see a band, you're going to see a big band. Like you could go to, you know, you go to Webster Hall and you know, you can see like what Built to Spill played this week, you know, so, but they're playing everywhere else too. You could go to North Carolina and Charlotte and see them there too.
Yeah. It's just part of their tour, basically.
There's no small venue, so you can't create any small scenes. Right. And so it's just the national acts that you can see. But the main draw, I mean, this is funny. Brooklyn Bowl's a great club. Brooklyn Bowl's awesome. That's a really, really healthy club. But this is funny because me and Dave played there with Crescent Moon a couple weeks ago. And we, you know, the show was amazing. We had so much fun. It was just a brilliant night. And then at midnight, the place turned into a the place turned into a, what was it? Not goth, an emo night. So all of a sudden, you can't even fucking write this shit. The place gets packed with emo kids, right? With the haircut and the guy liner and all that. And two guys get on stage with a table and a laptop. And they had a smoke machine, and the smoke machine starts, and they press play on the laptop, and it's a good Charlotte song. You know that song, Sugar Come, something fucking whatever? The fuck is that song, Sugar Come Down? The fuck is that song, you know? Spin it, and then whatever that fucking...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Number one. Shut the fuck up, you know? Shut the fuck up. And that was, they weren't performing it. They just press play on the laptop, and they're jumping up and down, and the crowd is packed and going insane.
Yeah, that's what they want. That's what they want.
That's what they want.
Listen to that, like, you know, recorded music from someone's laptop.
Dude,
it's ironic.
That is for real. That really happened. It really happened, and the music portion of the night was over by then. Our portion, like the live music, you know, fucking real. You can't even write this shit. It's so fucking funny. But you know, the other side of it is the tribute band thing, and look at, I go see them now. Like there's Almost Queen, there's Led Zeppelin. My friend is in Almost Queen. I got a friend in Led Zeppelin. The Insidious Rays guys are doing the Talking Heads thing. And
yeah, I've seen that a couple times.
And it's like, I mean, it keeps the music alive. And like the Almost Queen band is better than Queen with Adam Lambert. They're amazing. Their Freddie Mercury is just incredible. So I'm down with it. I wish there was more original music, but that's the draw now. So, a lot of my friends in original bands playing tribute bands now because they're going to play in front of a funny thing. A friend of mine manages Badfish, which is the Sublime tribute. And, Badfish does better than Sublime ever did, which is,
wow.
In terms of draw. And Sublime never got to see this kind of draw that the tribute band gets. It's just crazy,
Right.
It's just wild.
You got to play what you got to play.
Yeah, that's it, right? I want to play in front of people too, It's just like, it's hard to. People don't want original rock music, really, Not on a large scale,
I have one quick New York City story. I saw the Sound of Urchin boat show.
Ooh.
When?
What year?
Well, I can't remember exactly which year, but it was the same year that the Gentleman's Ashes were poured over the side.
The Gentleman, I like that.
And I didn't know him. And
no, I know, that's great.
A little side note: I actually got to touch the bag of ashes, and at no disrespect to. I happened to be there when like his, I'm assuming they were like his, good friends. Got out the bag and they held it up, and they were just like, okay, and I just, like the rest of them there, I just, okay, put my hand on the bag and just, peace, brother, that kind of thing. I don't think his, friends who were actually doing it were too thrilled, but again, I didn't mean any disrespect. I was just sort of there when it happened, and
Right. Oh no, of course, man, of course. And they did it for that reason anyway. So it wasn't, in no way was anybody like, everything was respect. So
not just that happened, but you guys were unbelievable. And it was the only time. It was the only time I ever actually got to make it onto the boat show, and I was not disappointed. That was an insane night.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
Those boat shows. Oh man, I wish we could do that. Boat shows were the pinnacle. Every year we'd look forward to it, and every year was just this. It really was like the rock and roll dream, man. It was like a 3-hour show. We'd play 2 sets and hardly take a break, and just people would lose their minds. And sometimes we did it. We'd be like midnight to 3 in the morning, and this is like that's rock and roll. And that was so special, obviously, because. We did it for Glenn, who, we knew just from coming to shows, totally a good guy. And it was real sad. It was like, this is weird. People aren't supposed to die at that age. And, they like wanted to do it. The show for Glenn. He loved the Urchin boat shows. And he said that he said, if I die, I want my ashes thrown off the side of an Urchin boat show. He said it, So that's why
so awesome.
He said it to his girlfriend at the time, or his ex-girlfriend, and they did it, and there we are playing the Diamond, and the ashes are going off the side, and that's another one of those, like, talked about talked about meeting, like, my heroes and stuff, but, like, that was another, like, pinch me moment, like, oh my God, like, this guy really, like, he said, if I die, I want my ashes thrown off the side. Obviously, it was in jest. But then they're actually doing it. And his friends are, we're all getting together for this thing, and we're going to rock, and we're going to do this thing, and really, it was really pretty intense, pretty amazing.
But at the same time, I'm also thinking how it comes back to this idea of fun, and it's like it's fucking life,
right? It is.
Life,
I mean,
and don't take everything so fucking seriously, and fun is part of it all as well, and it can be just as poignant and somber and, deep and amazing as anything else.
Completely. Exactly.
And dump their ashes at your show,
Exactly. I mean, we've had people, propose at our shows on stage. Hey man, I want to propose to my wife, and we love the shows, and your music is what brought us together and that kind of thing. And I mean, we're not big or, a big rock band by any means, but to have that stuff happen is just like, it's just to actually, move people or just touch them in some way. It's just amazing. And those shows are great, Nectars that happened once. Those Nectar shows were kind of crazy. We used to play them, just kind of like boat shows in their own right. Just wild stuff, man. Rock and roll is the most amazing thing ever.
Well, you know what? One last sort of like broad question as you bring that up. So, what is your take on the music business today? I know that's a broad question, but and music ownership, because in my opinion, people just don't really own music like they used to, and that is sort of the biggest. I don't know. It's the biggest like detriment to music, in my opinion. It's sort of coming back with the vinyl thing, but it still is just sort of like, if you don't own it, you don't really care all that much.
Right. What it comes down to for me, and I've had this discussion with a lot of people, it's funny because you can be in the music. It's a weird time because you can be in the music business, in a band. You could be in the music business as an old school, like A&R guy or somebody that works for a record label. You could be a guy like JJ French from Twisted Sister, who was our manager at one time, during a big era of the band. And we all have the same discussions, or you could not be in the music business at all and have the same you could be a fan, and we all have the same discussion. We're all trying to make sense of this thing. And it's really strange because no one's got any answers. You would think JJ French, who sold 40 million albums, or would have some sort of opinion or idea that makes sense over somebody else, a fan. But it's everyone's having the same discussions, and it's like, what the hell is going on? To me, what I always come down to is worth. Things have to have worth. If somebody gives you, here's an example. When I got on RCA, like CDs were big, right? Or when Urchin got on RCA, CDs were the thing. You go down, you'd plop like $12.99 or $14.99 on a CD, and you'd own it, and then you'd be really happy to put it in, or and listen to it and read the book and everything else. And like when we got on RCA, they would just give me a bunch of CDs. Like here's a whole bunch of CDs for free. And those CDs that were for free that they gave me, or anybody gave me back then, like our publicist would have, here's a bunch of CDs from whatever band we're doing. It's like, oh, that's cool, awesome. I'd have so many CDs I didn't know what to do with. But the CDs that were given to me had no worth to me whatsoever.
Right.
In comparison to the CDs they had no worth. Even if I liked the band, it didn't have any worth. And so now that kind of, if you transfer that aspect to people that are streaming, I feel like that's what's happening. Now people are feeling that same thing. They're not really paying for something to own it. You own that music. It's yours now. When you get that CD or that song, you bought that album or that cassette or anything, you own it and you wanted to buy it. And worth, value, it's really something. It sounds it sounds kind of like shallow to say that money has something to do with it, but it does. Money is hard to come by. Like when you work and you get paid, and then you realize for the first time that you got to fucking watch your fucking money and pay your bills, and you start to understand what worth is and value. And then so that's the same thing. So when you're spending that $14.99 on an album, and you own it and you fucking love it and you play it the shit out of it, and that's like the thing. But now it's got no worth, and people can't realize that.
In a lot of ways, the internet is like so transient, and and people just sort of have this sense of entitlement that everything's just supposed to be free on the fucking internet. Like, if I can't get it for free, I'm going to click on something else, or just give me a 5-second ad and I'll click on it and then I can have it. And
they don't even.
My concern, like you think like Marx theory, where you're only as valuable as your labor, and if your labor is music, you can't develop your labor. You can't make a living.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, and the business itself is struggling. We got signed, and another part of the value. But not everybody got fucking signed by RCA Records. We were so proud, Like, there's Elvis and David Bowie and Hall & Oates and, just this, like, RCA, the fucking RCA Victor, like, logo with the dog and the phonograph. Like, this is, like, we've fucking arrived. This is what I've worked my whole life for. It's like if everyone could be in the fucking NBA.
Yeah, there's nowhere really else to go. There's nowhere else to go from there. There's no higher place to be as a musician than on a label like that.
Yeah, and it's a great place to be, and they treated us really right, and we worked hard for them. We treated it as a job. We worked really fucking hard for them, and they worked really hard for us. They worked for us. They didn't snap a finger and, like, make us into something. They worked hard. And we had a plan, and we were all working together. They loved the band, and they put money into us, but not too much money, where we would, end up, like getting the label mad, like, oh my God, you guys are spending too much money. Not even getting them mad, but getting them to notice us. Like, oh wow, we're putting too much money into them. We can't have them anymore on the label. We kept everything really low. Kept our jobs, everything was so, and it's like that. It's like it's like going to an office or something, an office job, and then, like, starting out as, like, the secretary, and then fucking pushing paper around and making copies and shit, and then working your way up. Like, you feel good when you work your way up to something. It's not. Now everyone's a fucking CEO. Everyone's a fucking, people giving themselves a CEO title. Oh yeah, I'm a COO of what the fuck? No, you're not.
Everyone on Facebook, the goddamn owns their own fucking company on Facebook.
I know. When you ask people what they do, they'll tell you what they do in the fake world. I mean, they don't tell you, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not telling you what they do. Oh, no, you're actually, you work at whatever, Starbucks, but you're barista. That's what you do,
I'm a novelist,
Right, I'm a novelist, journalist, but, and look, I'm generalizing, and I'm not trying to get down on anybody because it's the truth. Like, I wasn't, I'm a musician. I've been a musician my whole life, but, like, you have to really fucking do what you're doing and put all your fucking shit into it, in order to do it,
Right. You can't just expect a handout.
Time and effort in.
Yeah, you can't. Right. Exactly. Again, I'm generalizing, and you know what I'm generalizing about, but, you guys know the deal. I don't want to come down on anybody, but the deal.
No, we don't either. I mean, it's all, to each their own, but there's certainly concern, we all have a right to be concerned about sort of what affects on quality, or the quality of the music and the quality of the life of a musician. How do we expect to continue to have great music if people can't make a living doing it?
Yeah, and I think again, what we're talking about is the value, meaning that the balance is off. Like, it used to be very difficult to make a demo. It used to be very difficult to get your music out to people and to do it. And again, like, you weren't getting a job if you had fucking tattoos up your arm. You weren't getting a job if you had long hair. Like, somebody asked me, it was my mom last week asked me, she goes, how did a band like Led Zeppelin even meet each other? How did those four guys come together? I go, I go, you know what, Mom? And I thought about it. I go, because back in 1969 or whatever, there weren't that many people doing it. Like, to look like Robert Plant and Jimmy Page, you weren't getting a job. You weren't like, you were a fucking outcast. You were saying, I am going off the fucking grid. I'm going off the plan. I'm going to be laughed at, ridiculed, maybe even beaten up by everybody doing what I'm doing. And
well, and
so,
back then,
you know.
Oh, sorry, Bill.
No, keep going. Yeah.
Back then, something that I don't think we're ever going to see again is all those bands were like working together and hanging out together, and you know, like the Yardbirds, and then some of those guys became Led Zeppelin, and like other guys in that band became other things, and you had like the California scene where it's like Crosby, Stills and Nash are hanging out with the Grateful Dead and Joni Mitchell, and you got New York and Dylan, you know, and it's like, yeah, and you know, I don't think you see that as much today as you did back then, where it's like they're like these cliques, but they're working together and playing off each other and building up the entire apparatus and the quality of the music. And you know, it's like when you talk about the '60s when the Beatles felt like the Beach Boys were calling them out, and they got to come back with Sgt. Pepper, and the Stones are doing this, and it's like, and then Dylan's like beating everyone's fucking ass, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's not the same today as I think it was then.
No, exactly. And again, if you really think about it, you were really an outcast back then for looking like that. It looks like it's hard to even understand.
Well, it was so much.
Your parents didn't want to fucking like admit that you were their kid. You were disappointing your family. You were disappointing your grandparents. You know, like, you know what I mean? Like, you were disgracing your family line. Like that's, in order to do that, like, that's crazy. Like, you were really doing it. And a lot of people probably didn't make it. And then we're just like, shit, man, why did I do that? You know?
And it was so much harder to connect with other, you know, weirdos. Like, you know, if you considered yourself an outcast or whatever, it was so much harder to meet other people who were interested in doing the things that you were into, you know, as opposed to today. It's just like, oh, okay, well, we're on, you know, the Ween forum on Facebook, and we're on the Urchin, you know, it's just like, oh, okay, Urchin Head, like, here we are. You know what I mean? It's just, boom, it's a, you know, click of a button. But yet it seems like nothing's really getting done like it used to be.
Right. It's not going anywhere. Where's it going?
You used to have to earn your title. Nowadays, you just give yourself a title. But I guess we're seeing that if you haven't earned it, then you aren't doing anything for it anyway.
It's crazy. I mean, the internet, like, hey, what are you going to do about it? There's nothing you can do. My wife always says you can't stop progress, you know. What are you going to fucking do? The internet has upended everything we fucking know. It's just upended it. It's just has flipped it upside down. It's upside down. You want to talk about anything, and whatever. It's great. It's not something that I'm like, you know, I'm not doomsday kind of guy at all. But like, it's just really wild what it's done. And the music business, if you ask me, was the first one to go, because it went in like 2001. So it was the first thing to, like, you know, shit. Movies are trying to hold on by making fucking more and more Pixar movies, and you know, but nobody wants to see movies anymore. And like, you know, newspapers, like, you know, were going out of business a few years ago until the election, and like, you know, it's like everything is just like fucking upended, man. Nobody knows what the fuck to do. No, crazy.
20th century, man. Shit.
Yeah, that's it. That's insane. Fucking insane.
Well, dude, you know,
we
really, really, really appreciate you taking so much time tonight. I feel like we just like scratched the surface. I feel like maybe this will just be like, you know, part 1 and 2 of like a whole series. We could just turn this into its own podcast, just like Sauce with Tomato or something.
I'm down. I'm always down.
Lots of ruminations with tomato.
Yeah,
I'm always down. Thanks, guys. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, dude,
it's so great.
It's a pleasure chatting with you about Urchin and Ween and Mickey, and also just music in general, dude. It's been awesome. Really appreciate it.
Ween is so awesome, and those guys are great, and the fan base is it's just amazing. I know, you know, but I know we always joke about how hardcore the fan base is, and that sometimes it's over the top, but like it's so great because everyone really is into the music, and it's like Ween is that thing that if you get it, if you're not going to be casual, man. If you get it, then you're like a certain type of person. That's a good person, for the most part. You know what I mean? You really get it. You get it.
Yeah.
You get this whole thing, and that's great to have a band like that, like that does really
bring us all together.
Yeah, it really does. It's
weirdos together.
Well, so anyone that's made it this far, this will probably be a two-parter, but anyone that's made it this far, I would say, get online. We're talking about the internet. Get online and order Rejoice and Black Castle. And if I'm not mistaken, October free shipping. Rocktober. Am I right?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Free shipping the whole month of October. That's good stuff.
Completely
Rocktober. Well, Tomato, thank you so much, man. Thank you for taking the time, and I mean, this has just been a real thrill for us, really, man.
You got it. And if you got this far on the podcast, I got a special present for everyone. I'm gonna give you B. Ill's cell phone number right now. Okay, ready? 609. No, I'm joking.
Oh man, I was getting my pen. What do you?
Oh, that'd be so funny if I gave away his number. All of a sudden, he starts getting all these calls.
Dude, practical joke, man. Practical joke.
That would be a great prank, man. That's like the red pepper under the cheese, man. It's another good one.
Well, dude, thank you so much again. And
I do not want to mess with B.L. Yeah, that's on you.
Yeah. Oh no, you definitely don't want to, man. You don't want to mess with them.
Well, Tomato, thank you so much again, and I'm serious. We have to do this again sometime. Maybe we'll just do an episode on just, the Diamond, or just, Rejoice, or whatever. Just really, really get into it. You know what I mean? So
I'd love to do it again. I'm so down. It's great that that here we are in 2019, and you guys appreciate the music, and that it's awesome. It's true. It's the real deal. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, man.
Well, that concludes our phone call interview with Tomato. Was that amazing or what? I want to thank Chris Tomato11 for being so generous with his time. The guy is just absolutely amazing, an incredible artist, and just a straight up sweetheart. Absolutely the best. He didn't have to take so much time out of his night, and he was more than happy to do it. I kind of feel like if I would have just kept asking him questions, he might have just talked all night. So we really want to thank him again for being so cool. I realized in our previous episode, the first part of the interview, I had mentioned a track on the Rejoice CD, the extra CD that comes with the new vinyl edition of Rejoice, and I couldn't think of the name of the track, and the one that I was referring to is All Is Quiet on the Western Front. I had mentioned something about wagons. I guess my brain just figured Western wagons, and he would make the connection and would enlighten me as to which one I was referring to. I should have had the list in front of me of the tracks, but All Is Quiet on the Western Front is the song I was thinking of. If you want to hear some other amazing podcasts with Tomato, go back and check out the Get Your Rocks Off podcast from a few years ago. He tells just the most brilliant tale of the complete roller coaster ride that is Urchin. And also check out our podcast pals, Godween Evan, who did another interview with Tomato. Just some great stories, some great Ween stories, and a lot of fun. Please subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. Check out our Facebook page, check out our Facebook group, join the group. If you want to throw in a couple of bucks to the show, check us out on Patreon. It's patreon.com/weencastpodcast. Also hit us up on PayPal. Anything would be very gratefully accepted and would go right back into the cost of hosting the show and any other costs that we might have. Our PayPal is just our regular Gmail, which is weencastpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget, we are going to be at the Philadelphia show on December 14th. Hit us up. We want to meet you. We want to meet everyone. We want to have a great time. It's going to be a great time no matter what. Please let us know if you're coming to that show, who you are, what you're going to be wearing, what you look like, because we want to hit you up. We want to give you a sticker. We want to make you a fan for life. So please hit us up. Check us out. Until next time, practice your thumbs up.